the first thing we're going to do is wet the sky. So clean water all over the sky. You can go over the hills. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you do, don't worry. If you don't, it doesn't matter either way. So I've got plenty of water in there. And we're going to have a very weak wash of Payne's Grey. Weak as weak could be, really. And I'm just going to draw that across, getting lighter down to the bottom there. It doesn't have to be without lines because they can be extra little bits of cloud and bits in the sky. But it all should sort of blend in together. And then for the last bit of the sky, and I'm pushing on quite quickly because it's dry, I've got a thicker mix of Payne's Grey, and we're going to do the clouds. As normal, when I'm trying not to, I get things right smack in the middle. So I am going over to the left slightly with these clouds. So I'm just doing a blob there. It will dry less, one hopes. Or might not, who knows. Then I'm doing a bit of cloud up in the top there and a bit there to close it off, a bit coming down there. And then little blobs going up towards that one. And little blobs going towards that one. They're not really, they're not a shape at all, and they should soften in. And what I need to do is just block that up. That's it. I went over the line, and of course you're not supposed to go over lines because your mum doesn't like it if you colour over lines. I look as if I've got a bit of a hard edge, I'm just going in with a damp brush and pushing it about a bit. I suppose it could be called bullying. So that's that for my sky, and I'm going to pause the recording. And whilst that dries nicely, I'm going to do the water. And again, wet the paper, perhaps not quite as much as we did with the sky, up to the line of where those sand dunes are. Then with a watery mix of Payne's Grey, starting at the bottom, come up and stop when you get to that line that you put in. So you've got a graded wash the other way up, and if it wants a bit more at the bottom, do it, because it will dry a lot lighter. So we're ready for that. Then with a slightly thicker mix of paint, I'm going to put in the waves. So I'm still using the same brush. I'm just pulling those round there, and also I'm just going to, where that cloud is, I'm just going to make that a bit darker, because that would be reflected. Then with a damp brush, I'm just going to help these blend in, these water lines. So I'm carrying, I'm using the curve. And also the cloud, just pushing the paint around slightly. If it starts to make marks, if your brush starts to make marks, it's getting too dry to do that. Now I've made a puddle of raw sienna, which I'm going to very carefully drop in on these sand dune things. But if yours, my water and sky is dry, if yours isn't, don't do it yet, or put a hairdryer on it. So I'm just putting in the sand dunes. Try and keep it in the lines, child. I've left a few white gaps, only because I think it looks nicer. That's it. Making sure that I got it along the bottom there. Now I'm washing that out, and very quickly before it dries, I'm going to drop in a little bit of burnt sienna in places, so not all over, so that it just varies the tone. And it just gives it that look of mottledness. And I'm also just going to, with a damp brush, just going to lift a little of that paint out in places so that there's lighter bits and darker bits. And it's not quite so tidy. So it's just a clean damp brush. And I managed to get some raw sienna in the sea, but it'll be behind some boats, so it's all right. But there's part of me saying, that shouldn't be there. That's by giving it darker shades and light shades, and that it just brings it to more life. So we're going to put the boats in now. So I'm starting with doing the uprights of the pontoon, and then it's got a little bit of flat where you walk on it, and then start filling out the boats. You don't need to paint them separately, you just fill them in a blob in a connected way. Till you get to the bits at the other end. And do the same for the other side. So it's its little legs, the bit you walk on to get to the boat. And then paint the shapes in. Some can be a bit lower than others because they'll be just a bit more forward in the line. And we all know about forward ones. So that's that bit. Now we need them to dry before we start putting the masts on. So whilst they're drying, I'm going to do some shadows, so reflections. So with a lighter mix of Payne's Grey, let's start with the legs at the end of the pontoons. I've drawn down and then I'm just going to put my finger on and pull. Put my little finger on and pull. You can do that over this side as well. So draw down the same length, pull. Pull. Your little finger gets a bit messy, but it's fine. Make sure we've got the walking bit of the pontoon, yeah. Then you've drawn in your masts. So with a light mix, see where they correspond. I think we probably could draw them in or paint them in now. So such a light touch. Doesn't even matter if it misses a couple of times. A light, very thin, spidery line. I'm not refilled with any paint yet on my brush. I'm just gently pulling down the lines that I put in with the ruler. If it goes thick, stop and try and get it back. Try and get what you're doing to be thin. If it's not working, stop and use a pen. They just need to be there. And the same with the reflections. So trace it down to with you and carry it on, and then pull with your finger. One or two of these you can show have got, oh, I've got way too much paint now. I've got a line, some rigging. So I'm just doing a rope on one or two of them. So start it near the top, bow it out a bit, and bring it back in. Don't do it on every one, just on a few. Just gives it idea. None of it is correct. It's all to fool the eye. Ooh, don't like it. Press too hard on the brush. And I have fallen into my age-old trap of, even though I don't want them to be equidistant, somehow that's the way they are. I give up. The end post on each of the pontoons are a little bit longer, so they will go into the Seymour. So let's do this side. Start. God, that's a bit thick. Oh. Nice and thin. Come on. Very little pressure. Do a couple of lines hanging about. Pull them down. They're a bit dry, those. So where it looks as if it's a bit sharp, I'm just wetting the edge slightly and pulling it down. They're looking a bit sharp edged. One or two a bit thick. I'm just making them a bit softer. And we're just going to do some shadows. So with the same thickness of Payne's grey, underneath the boats, draw a line and just pull down a little way with your finger, just to give that the boats some reflection apart from the mast. And the same with over this side. So I'm just drawing the lines and just pulling it down, just back and forwards with the line and pull down. Doesn't look as if I've done that one. That's better. And I'm just going to do some birds. I've got a lovely mark up here which will turn into birds beautifully. That'll do. And there's one there that always, yeah, the rebel doesn't do what the rest do. And that's it, done.